Kameo Elements of Power is Rare's fantasy epic that released as a launch title for Microsoft's Xbox 360 all the way back in November 7th of 2005. It was released to generally positive reviews and is filled with that Rare charm we all know and love. In fact, this is one of the last Rare titles to focus around narrative storytelling and give us story-centered epic adventure. This is back when everything at Rare wasn't about Sea of Thieves, and no, I'm not knocking Sea of Thieves. That's just all we've had from Rare in 7 years. Where is Everwild? Or even better, where's the new Banjo game? You know what? Never mind. Today is about looking back at Kameo Elements of Power and appreciating all that it was and why it's a Rare gem. Let's start with a brief bit of the development. The interesting thing about Kameo is this is one of the few Rare titles that development spanned 3 different consoles in its development cycle, but the game originally was conceptualized on the Nintendo 64, and then it transitioned to actual development and gameplay on the Gamecube with demos and prototypes. Then it transitioned to the original Xbox and finally landed on the Xbox 360 as a launch title. Let's take a look at each period of this development cycle. According to various sources, including Rare themselves on Rare Replay, the team that worked on Kameo was compromised from the Donkey Kong 64 team. While there wasn't much done on the N64 hardware itself, there were a few very early documents you can see where they were writing down story concepts, gameplay mechanics, and even characters. The team had a spark of inspiration by Nintendo, and specifically with Pokemon, and the idea of catching monsters. This is around the time that Pokemon was becoming the phenomena that it is. Fast forward a bit to the introduction of the GameCube. This is where things started to heat up. The game had officially entered development and concept became implementation. The gameplay started as a concept for catching baby monsters and raising them to morph into. Then you'd use the abilities of the monsters to fight. Eventually, this concept was dropped in favor of just giving us the monster to turn into. Essentially, we went from Pokemon elements to straight Ben 10, and I'm not mad about it. In fact, there was originally planned to be upwards of 60 monsters, but this was ultimately cut down to 12, 2 more than the final retail release. These last 2 got scrapped a bit later on as they were wind element creatures, and the developers thought it would be too easy to navigate the world and solve puzzles with flying-like abilities. As far as Kameo herself, you'll notice that Kameo in the early versions has a slightly different look than the final, and we keep that for a while until it swaps closer to the retail release. We actually do have a bunch of footage of early development of the game, so why don't we take a look at some of the GameCube prototype footage that was shown off at E3 back in 2001. You'll notice in this footage we have so many different elementals that weren't in the retail release of the game. Some were similar in concept and seemed to be reworked, and some were scrapped entirely. See what you can spot in this footage. Now following up after that footage, we move on from development on GameCube to Xbox. This is the time where Rare was acquired by Microsoft. If you want a full breakdown on Microsoft buying Rare and the effect it had on the games in development, you can go check out the video I made on it. Just click the link in the top corner, or I'll drop the link in the description below so you can watch it after this video. The Xbox version of Kameo is far closer to the 360 release, but still has a few noticeable differences. Probably the biggest difference is Kameo was supposed to have a sidekick named Meepo, who was a small dragon-like character. He sort of looked like Spyro. This held up for a while in development until ultimately being cut. It's believed the dragon was supposed to help with the monster growing process, until that gameplay mechanic was scrapped. In the Xbox build, you can see a statue of him in the Enchanted Kingdom that was later changed to a unicorn. Evidently, Kameo and her sister Callis were meant to both have dragons, but these were reworked into Ash and the Troll's dragons. Though the rework is just speculation as far as I'm aware. Other differences are sort of typical, like areas looking slightly different, as well as characters. Here's some footage of the Xbox version of things. In addition, it seems like the Xbox version has a playable build and you can play the game in its entirety. Not quite bug-free, but a competent version. Maybe someday I'll get it running for a live stream.
This past week on MTV, we shared with you a title that we're wonderfully excited about, and one of Rare's premier titles for the launch window, Perfect Dark Zero, a game that will redefine the multiplayer first-person shooter genre. This next title from Rare represents an important leap forward in game development, combining dynamic puzzles, immersive combat, enormous environments, innovative storytelling, and really fun gameplay. Let's look at a title that will feed the hardcore and have stronger appeal to the broader gaming audience.
For every vision of light, there will be one of darkness. For every moment of peace, there will be one of chaos. She alone holds the power to save this world. A legion of warriors, hidden inside the body of one. Only you can unleash them.
Rare evidently was given a chance to release Kameo on Xbox or to wait and release it on Microsoft's new console and add some more polish. They decided to push it to the 360, which gave them an opportunity to bump up the graphical fidelity. Textures and models saw an uplift, and probably the biggest part of the game that came from this is the expansion of the Badlands. The small hub world of the game became a giant map filled with soldiers fighting against each other on both sides. These are massive battles with tons of enemies on screen. It's actually very impressive visually. That's a brief look at the development of Kameo from conception to release. I really enjoy how we can see these early builds and the general transformation of Kameo from a monster catching game to an action adventure. It's so cool how we can follow the trail of development and actually see visual representation of what was changed and what remained the same. Now let's talk about the plot and world building. The game itself follows a teenage elf princess, yes, named Kameo, who acquires the ability to control elemental warriors and use them for any and every situation. This is an ability called the Element of Power that is passed down generation to generation of the royal family to the eldest born, along with a book called The Whatnot. Spelled differently than you'd expect, but feels Rare-like for sure. Anyways, Kameo's sister Callis, who's the eldest, was rightfully supposed to inherit the power and book, but for some reason, the queen decided to break tradition and give the power to Kameo. This caused Callis to get jealous that Kameo received this ability in her stead, and partners with the evil troll king Thorn to take over the Enchanted Kingdom and take the power and whatnot for herself. Thorn is someone who her father had opposed and sealed away in stone a long time ago, giving his life in the process. She then proceeds to kidnap her entire family and manages to defeat the newly powered Kameo, stealing her elementals and sealing them away in the process. But luckily, Kameo retains the whatnot and can reacquire the elementals, so Kameo has to begin a journey to rescue her family, acquire all the elementals she lost, and stop her sister and the trolls from taking over. That's the basis of the plot for this title. The story itself is interesting, but where everything gets cool is the mystery and roles of each character. Kameo is actually adopted, and not blood to the royal family. They make that very clear to you. They never reveal her origin though really, other than when the king died sealing away Thorn, the whatnot was damaged and some of the elementals were taken. 5 escaped and found their way back to the Enchanted Kingdom along with a baby. And that baby was Kameo. That's all we really get about her. Where she comes from and who she's actually related to are a mystery. And it's that type of mystery that makes you wonder more about the character and the lore in general. Back to the main story of the game, there actually used to be a website that you could view a journal by Kameo where she offers more details to the situation. It's revealed the mystic tricked Thena the queen into thinking Callus wasn't fit to rule and ultimately leading to Kameo inheriting the power. The mystic herself is such an interesting character. We know very little, just that she's powerful and wants to revive her race with the power of the whatnot and elementals. Apparently she harbors a hatred for the elves as they basically wiped out her civilization. Characters like Farron, who play a small role and seem to maybe at one point have more significance, add to the mystery. He was reworked from the scrapped concept of Kameo having a brother named Calum and had his own backstory. There was even speculation of Farron being the former king in disguise, but this has been debunked. The whatnot itself having a frickin' wizard sealed inside of it is another mystery. It's the fact that these characters push us to want to know more about them that adds to the mystique and overall atmosphere of the game. These are just specific instances too. We have general races of characters like the goblins that look bizarre, the soldiers under the Enchanted Kingdom, the trolls at war with them, the elven family, and all the special races of monsters throughout the game. The very question of the elementals themselves. Are they real? Are they spirits? Are they both? It's hard to say. It seems like they're spirits with physical manifestations that need the whatnot and Kameo to unlock their full power. Every character and area in this game is thought out and seems to carry deeper meaning. Some was planned even for a sequel that never happened, but that is sort of typical Rare, isn't it? People may question why I talk about world building as a big draw for games like this, but honestly Rare has a history of world building. It's one of the things I appreciate most about them. The connections to other games, the ideas that could carry into the future and add to the lore. Kameo in particular shines with the latter. Even at the end, when I played this, I looked around for the Mystic, as it was rumored you could find her randomly in the game, off in the distance. Let me know if you ever have. And as far as connecting and referencing to other games, this is one of my favorite references. We can actually transform one of our elementals into Mumbo. But now that we brushed through the plot and world building, why don't we chat a little bit about the gameplay? The core gameplay of Kameo focuses on the elementals and transformations. People new to the game get a small taste of multiple transformations at the beginning, where it throws you into the thick of it. I think this is an excellent choice that assists in the playability of this game, because when you have only one transformation, the game can feel sort of slow-paced. It's the idea of chaining together abilities and different creatures that makes this game shine. So giving us a small taste of that, and then the anticipation of the monsters and elements we could get later without knowing, keeps us progressing just to find out what happens. And as you progress later in the game, you unlock up to 10 elementals to fight with. You'll no doubt have your use cases with all of them, but you'll find your favorites and lock in and focus on upgrading those first. The actual gameplay consists of basic functions like running and attacking, though you use the right trigger and left trigger for different abilities or attacks, and then can use both for a special attack. You can lock quick transformations up to 3 to the face buttons, so with a simple press you can transform into whoever you set to it. Other transformations require you to open the whatnot and select them. The game focuses on puzzles and beat-em-up sections, so you'll start to find yourself getting creative with different monsters and combinations to not only solve these puzzles, but to fight enemy waves. These quick changes keep things fresh and not stale. The actual gameplay variation between creatures is also very good. There are a lot of different elements that are represented, and very unique ones. Some are a little strange. Pummelweed, a plant creature that can burrow underground and deliver serious uppercuts. Rubble, a rock creature that can stun foes from any angle by shooting pieces of himself in different directions. Ash, a freaking fire-breathing dragon, need I say more? Major Ruin, who rolls up into a spiky ball and can launch up and off ramps. Deep Blue, an octopus with cannons for arms. Chilla, an ice gorilla that can scale walls with ice spikes right off his back. Flex, using his stretchy tentacles, we can grapple to different points. 40 below, a snow monster that can breathe frosty ice wind. Snare, another plant-like creature but with massive jaws to chomp and throw his foes, can also attack with poison. And Thermite, the tiniest of the elementals, who launches powerful attacks that explode any obstacle or enemy in your path. All of these creatures move and fight in unique ways that blend together creatively and effectively. And all their designs are unique and interesting, especially as they contrast with the different worlds. And on that, why don't we talk a little bit about the level design? There are several areas in this game, each with a theme. We have Thorn's Castle, the starting sequence of the game where we battle our way to the top. It's a medieval castle filled with enemies, an epic start to the game. Then there's the Enchanted Kingdom. It's very vibrant and colorful. It's modeled like a fairy fortress with a castle of its own at the heart. Just below are the Badlands, which is a massive open area where the big battles take place. You can explore it on horseback if desired and can run through areas as they transition to the various themes of the next area. The Enchanted Kingdom is right at the center of the Badlands. To the east, we have the Forgotten Forest Glade. To the north, we have Mountain Falls, which is an oceanside tropical area that contains the Water Temple. And to the west, it's Snowtop Village, the ice-themed area. And finally to the south, it's Thorn's Pass where his castle is located and we aim for the endgame. Each area is crafted with tons of puzzles we have to creatively get by with our transformations. Things like rolling down an ice ramp at high speeds to quickly transform into Chilla to attach to the wall and climb up the rest of the way. Or diving underground as Pummelweed to bypass an obstacle blocking our path and popping up on the other side. The world itself gives the vibe the creators really thought through each transformation and how they could chain into each other. Personally, I really enjoyed the Snowtop Village. Often snow levels aren't my favorite, but this had some really cool navigation sections, as well as a really cool sequence getting a giant to smash gates. Each level has specific boss fights as well that are themed around it. The Water Temple has Corallus, which is like a giant jellyfish with electric tentacles. It's an epic fight in and out of the water. We have to dodge lightning, throw back bombs, and dive underwater. Old Mawwood is an evil tree. We have to dodge roots and uppercut explosive seeds at it. Very reminiscent of Kirby. Queen Thyra is a giant icy spider thing. We have to sniper eyes with icicles and then smash them. A little gruesome and epic. Then of course we also have the Shadow Trolls scattered about in each level, and these are what we actually have to defeat to get our elementals. We defeat each of these and acquire our new abilities. Everything culminates in the final battle with Thorn, which takes place in the air in one of his blimps, but not before we face a giant robotic troll with a massive hammer. Gotta love the creativity. That's one thing I've always appreciated about Rare games. The bosses are always very creative and very fun, and Kameo holds up in that regard. The final battle with Thorn ends with our sister sacrificing herself in an act of redemption, and the day is saved. But the final piece of this puzzle for this epic, the music. In typical Rare fashion, Kameo has a banging soundtrack. This was Steve Burke's first time being an audio lead on a game, and boy did he knock it out of the park. The general soundtrack is both mysterious and epic. You get the vibes of a fantastical fantasy world of elves and trolls while feeling the ambience and mystery of the mystical forest. The best way to describe it is the music sounds how the game looks. It just fits right in. The original vision of the game saw happier sounding tracks that were more Nintendo. Let's take a quick listen to some prototype tracks.
A soul forlorn, a time of fear. My heart beats steadfast and true. My strength, my hopes, my dreams within, like shadows of the ghost of time.
As this transitioned from GameCube to Xbox and the more mature audience, it became a bit darker in tone. I think this suits the game perfectly though. Listen to this main theme. This game also actually transitioned as well from MIDI tracks to pre-recorded orchestra tracks, so it became Rare's first game with an orchestral soundtrack. Some of my favorite tracks aside from the main theme are the menu theme and Kameo's Quest. It's just so generally epic and the tunes slap hard. After going through all this, it's just important that you guys understand that Kameo is a good game for a lot of reasons. Is it Rare's best? Nope. If you don't know, that title belongs to a certain bear. But it certainly does a great job capturing the charm and qualities that made a Rare game in the 90s so great. It really feels like one of the last times Rare really pushed to give us a special story-driven experience. It's certainly worth a play if you haven't yet, and if you're on the fence, don't be. Well, that's all I have for you. I hope you'll drop a like on this video to help spread my content around and subscribe so you don't miss a future upload. If you want more Kameo and to maybe dive into the lore a bit more, go check out my Mysteries of Kameo video after this. Until next time, have a good one. Jiggylookback!